Hello everyone, welcome to an introduction to Maya 2018 project. This is the solar system project. You'll find this project inside of most introduction to Maya handbooks by Cybex, anywhere from like 2015 to 2018. Um, so this is a rehash of my tutorial series I did for the Maya 2015 solar system project. So there's not a lot of difference here. It's just a different UI and some things are in different places. So we're just going to do the whole thing all the way over again. That way, if you're trying to get to the solar system project and trying to follow along and see a different UI, you aren't confused. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and jump right in. We're going to start out by creating a new project folder, which is what you should do for any time you start working inside of Maya. So we're going to go to File, and we're going to go down to where it says Project, and you'll see one says Project Window. Okay, and it won't necessarily say this to begin with for you, so you'll want to click on New, and we're going to go ahead and call this Solar System. I'm going to call it 2018. This is the 2018 version that I'm doing. And location, this is where I decide to put it. So if you want it to be in a different location, you can go ahead and click on the folder and decide what location you want to be in. For me, I want this actually to be on the desktop. It just makes it where it's really easy for me to get to, and it also helps me when it comes to doing these videos. So I'll go ahead and leave it on my desktop. I know it's not the safest spot for it, but it's where I'm putting it for now. So we're going to go ahead and hit accept, and it will create ourselves a solar system project folder. Okay. Let's see here, solar system project. There it is, 2018. Now, what this essentially is not the saved file that we are working in currently. This is all this is a destination for all of our content to be at. So it houses everything in such different folders. Don't work off of this workspace. This is what opens up by default. It's what we're currently working in. But as soon as we hit Save Scene As, you'll see it pop up underneath the scenes folder right here. So we're going to go to over here, and we'll go ahead and do a set project. Make sure that when Maya starts up, it navigates everything to this folder we just created. So we're going to do set project and tell it that I want to be the solar system project folder we just did. That way it doesn't go to some older project or something like that. Okay, so now I can go ahead and do save scene as. This is the same thing as just save file as. Save scene is just a pipeline type term for production. Okay, so now I'm going to go to my, actually navigate back up. Actually, file, save scene as. It automatically navigates to the scenes folder. So there it is for my C drive, Coral, Desktop, Solar System project folder. That's the one we created. And then the folder within that project folder is the scenes folders where it should save it to, which it is. And I'll go ahead and call this one Solar System. And I want my last name to be included in this. Since most of this is for my students in class, this is the equivalent of putting your name on your homework. But inside of a production setting, this also happens quite a bit where you're working on a project and you want there to be some tag that says that you were the one who worked on it. And this is something that sometimes happens where you'll have your last name included in the saved file. That way, anyone who's working with your project file knows that you were the one who created it. So we'll just go ahead and do save as, and there we go. All right, so now we're ready to get started. We're going to start out by creating ourselves our sun. So to do that, we're going to just drop a sphere, a polygon mesh sphere into our scene. And you can do it in one of two ways. You can click on the shelf over here. You'll see there's a sphere, and it'll drop in there. No problem. You can also go to the drop-down menus over here where it says Create, and it gives you all the options for different things you can create that is not necessarily on the shelf. So we can do sphere from here as well, or any of these other shapes. So I'm going to go ahead and hit sphere. Let's drop right on in there. Okay, so next I want to make sure this is named correctly, because right now it defaults to P Sphere 1. So if I click on this, I can now rename it as mesh underscore sun. Enter. And mesh is just the prefix that we use in most studios just to tell anyone who's looking at your scene that this object here is a mesh or made up of polygons. There's other things that you'll be using that have other prefixes, like if you're using joints for rigging, they usually have the prefix BN, or the control rigs have CTRL. So it's just one of the many prefixes, and we'll be using this for every single one of our planets. One thing I do want to caution you guys against, I don't want to see any naming down here. The shaped node is an attribute that's plugged into the object that you see in the 3D viewport. This does not translate over to the actual outliner, which is over here. This shows you the organization of all the objects and items inside your scene. If you name it over here underneath the shapes, this plugs into this object inside the attribute editor. This is essentially this right here, not the actual object itself. So make sure that you are naming right here, or if you want, you can actually name it inside the outliner as well. So again, the outliner is right here, this icon here. So let's go ahead and close that. Okay, so now that I've talked enough about this startup part here, we are now going to set the scale of the sun to 2. So we can go ahead where it says scale XYZ, we're going to rename or renumber all these to 2. Okay, 2, hit tab, I'll jump down a line, 2, tab, 2, tab. Okay, great. From here, we don't want to be in this 3D viewport anymore. We want to be locked down to 2 axes or orthographic views. That way we don't accidentally put planets down below or above. We want them to be linear and horizontal to this. So we're going to jump into our orthographic views. You can click on this icon right here. This will bring up your 4-panel orthographic views. Or you can just press spacebar and that will also open it up. So I'll press spacebar and we'll pop open. To pick the one we want, which if you look at the bottom here, it says perspective view. This one says top, front, and side. The one we want is our top view right here. So I'll hover my mouse in this area and press spacebar again. And it now makes the top view of this go full screen. Okay. Now we could click on sphere and drop another one inside our scene. But the problem is that since this is located on the origin, meaning that if you look at these big black lines here in 3D space, the origin is 0, 0, 0, and our sun is located on the origin at 0, 0, 0. And we want it to stay there, so I'm not going to bother trying to move this thing out of the way. Instead, I'm going to actually, instead of creating a new object that's going to be in the origin, I'm just going to duplicate the existing one and then move it off the origin. So I'll select the sun, and I'll just hit Control D and hit W for the translate. So W, or you can click on the move tool right here. And then I will move it off of the axis. Now, if you see it popping, it's because I already have grid snaps activated. If you do not, which you most likely don't yet, go ahead and activate this little magnet right here. This one will make it to where as you move objects along the scene, it will snap between the grid spaces. So in a perspective view, it doesn't have any set grid spaces, so it kind of acts erratically. But from the top view here, it works perfectly. Just go ahead and move it off over here. Let's say right here is good. Okay, and this one is going to be Mesh Mercury, right? So Mesh Mercury and hit enter. Okay. Now Mercury has a scale of 0.3. So I'm going to go over to where it says scale and just go ahead and enter a value of 0.3 for each one of these XYZs. Okay. And Mercury has no moons, so we are good to go. We go ahead and move it a little bit further forward. So I'm going to hit Control D and just duplicate Mercury. Okay. And I'm going, Control D. There we go. And let's put it about 2 grid spaces. 2 or 3, depends on how big the planet is. I want there to be a little bit of space between them. Okay. So this looks accurate. That's good enough for me. So it looks like I have a captain. Fix this. Okay, and then this one is Venus. I'm going to go ahead and fix that as well. And I will now call Venus. Okay. Venus has no moons, and its scale is going to be at 0.5. So we'll go ahead and increase the size of that to 0.5. Okay, there we go. and we're ready to move on. So let's go ahead and we're going to also duplicate Venus. So we'll hit Control D again, and we're going to just move it off. Okay. And this one is going to be our Earth. So we'll go ahead and delete out Venus here. We'll go ahead and re-enter Earth. Earth has a moon, obviously, so we're going to actually duplicate Earth as well. And we're going to hit Control D. And we're going to move it up one grid space above over here. And we'll put in a value of 0.1 for this moon here. Okay. And the reason why I put this one on top over here, which is really just on the side of it, since we're looking down on it as a top view, is just so that there's no confusion that it's a planet. That's usually my reasoning behind that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and rename this as Moon. And I'm going to use this moon for all the other planets' moons as well. It doesn't need to have special moons per planet, at least not for this exercise. Okay, so moving along here, we're going to now create Mars. So I'll select Earth and I'll move along, hit Control D, and move this one over. And we're going to call this one Mars. Okay, and we're going to set Mars to a scale of 0.4. These scales are coming directly out of the book, by the way, so I know they're not 100% accurate, but accurate enough. Okay, so Mars has 2 moons. So we're going to go ahead and just borrow this one up here and hit Control D and move it over here to where one's on top. I'll hit Control D again and move it to where there's now one below it. Okay, that's good. And now we're going to move along a little bit more. This one is going to be Jupiter. So I'll go ahead and hit Control D for Mars, move it over a bit, and we're going to call it Jupiter. Okay, and we're going to set the scales to 1 for this guy here. All right. And Jupiter has a bunch of moons, so let's go ahead and we're not going to do all of them. I think that has over 60. So let's just do like, we'll say, that may, oh, that's good. Actually, let's move this over just a little bit because I think with all these moons that we might end up with some collision. If you're not careful with Mars, I don't want that to happen. Okay. There we go. Oh, that's good. Okay, so Jupiter's done, and now we're on to Saturn. This is about when things start to get a little bit more interesting. So we're going to move Saturn over here. We're going to go ahead and call it Saturn. Okay. Now, the planet itself isn't that difficult. It's the ring that's going to pose some challenge for the newbie to Maya. So let's go ahead and exit out of our orthographic views. We're going to go back to our perspective. So I'm going to press space bar right here. I'll press space bar over here. Now I'm back into my perspective view. And here's Saturn. I'll hit F, so I'll frame Saturn in all by itself. Okay. Now to create the ring, I'm going to duplicate Saturn. So I'm going to turn off grid snapping so I can move things around without snapping this stuff. And I'm going to hit Control D. Now I have a duplicate of Saturn. I'm going to raise it up the y-axis right above Saturn. And I'm going to call this Saturn ring. Okay. So far we haven't talked about components, and let's take a second here to talk about components, because these geometry pieces are made up of 3 different component types besides the object mode, which is the green outline you see of all this wire mesh. 3 different component types are face. So if I hold down right mouse button on top here and go to face node, you can see now as I hover my mouse around, we can go to face node. They're made up of edges, so I can hold down right mouse button and go to edge, and I can select any of these edges. And they're made up of vertexes. So vertex mode, and those are the corner bits of each one of these polygons, right? Okay, and that means that I can select any bits of these and manipulate them as I need to. That is the power of 3D modeling. You can select face mode or edge mode and manipulate them however you need them. So what we need for this one to create the ring is to be in face mode, and we actually need to remove a chunk of it. So we're going to delete off the bottom half of the planet. So we'll select all of this down here, we'll rotate around the back side, make sure I got all of it. Looks good. And I'll just hit delete. Okay, so there it is. Bottom half is gone. I want to leave the top, or these three bands right in here. So I'm going to delete off the top, leaving these three sections right there. Okay, so I'm going to select like so. And I'm going to hit delete. Okay. And I did that really quickly. I'm going to switch back to object mode. So after you're done in face mode, you just switch back over to object mode. Again, as all I'm doing here is holding down right mouse button on top of the object. This is how you get that floating menu you're seeing right now. So object mode, and now I need to scale this flat so it'll become the ring. So I'll hit R for scale. I'm just going to scale it down to what's nice and flat. Okay. So if you're unsure about this part here, you grab this box right here and you just move it down to where it's right on top of the blue box. Okay. Now we need to give it a little bit more diameter so that this isn't such a small ring. So I'm going to switch back to my edge mode so I can adjust the geometry to look a little differently. So I'm going to hold down right mouse button again. I'm going to go to edge mode. I'll double click on the outer edge. Okay, and then my scale tool is still active. I'm going to use this teal one in the center. I'm just going to click my left mouse button and I'm going to drag to the right with my left mouse button, and that'll make it where the scale makes it all move away like it is right now. I'm going to do the same thing on this one. I'm going to distribute these out evenly. So I'm going to scale these ones apart. So holding down left mouse button, I'm just dragging until it's about right in here. And do the same thing with this one here as well. Now in class, I have seen a couple accidents where someone's done something like this, where they, instead of going out, they accidentally went in. And this creates an issue because the geometry is now overlapping. You can see that issue right in here. You'll start to see some flickering inside the geometry. It's just a cautionary thing you see in the viewport. So make sure you don't accidentally make the geometry overlap. That's kind of an issue with flat geometry. If you make it overlap on itself, it can cause some render issues. Okay, so our ring is done. Now all we have to do is reseat it back down on top of Saturn. So I'm going to go to object mode. I'm going to go ahead and click on it. Hit W for translate. And now I can translate this straight down the y-axis right on top of Saturn. Okay. Now I hit R for scale. That'll allow me to now scale up the ring where it is now about the appropriate size. Okay, that's good. Okay, so Saturn also has a number of moons. We're going to add 3 of them in there. We're going to select this moon here. And we're going to need to, at this point, go back to our orthographic view so we don't end up accidentally doing Y translates or any of that. And we'll turn grid snapping back on as well. So space bar in the open area, that'll bring back up in our 4-panel view. Okay, I'm going to hover it over the top view here, space bar again. And I'll hit Control D and translate this one outside of this ring. I'll hit Control D, translate on the other side over here, and Control D, put it over here. Okay, there we go. So I got my 3 moons. So Saturn is now in good shape, ready to move forward. We'll go back to my object mode. I'm going to select the Saturn planet, and I'm going to hit Control D. This next one is going to be Uranus. A nice way of saying this one, so it's Uranus or Uranus. Either way, it's a lose-lose. Okay. Now Uranus is going to be a scale of 0.7. Looks like I might have accidentally forgot to adjust Saturn as well. Saturn was supposed to be at 0.9. So let's adjust Saturn too, and then we'll go back and adjust Uranus. Okay, we'll go over to Saturn or Uranus and do 0.7. Okay, there we go. Uranus also has 3 moons, so we just go ahead and snag one of these moons here. Control D, and just bring them over and position them around the outside. Okay. And now we're going to move on to Neptune. So we're going to hit Control D for Neptune. Neptune is the same size as Uranus, so we don't even have to adjust the scale. We just got to rename it. And it looks like I actually forgot to rename Uranus. Let's go ahead back here where it says Mesh. Let's go ahead and call this Uranus. And we'll call this one Neptune. And then the last one is Pluto, even though, well, Pluto was demoted and then it was, I guess now it's bigger than I think it was, so maybe there's a planet again. Who knows? Um, so Pluto's going to be a 0.15 scale. And I'm sorry, backing up just a little bit, Neptune did have a moon. We're gonna go ahead and duplicate off one of these guys, bring it over for Neptune, and Pluto also has a moon. So let's go ahead and bring that over here for Pluto. All right, let's go ahead and turn off grid snaps to make Pluto's moon a little closer to it. All righty. So now we have our entire solar system created. We can look inside of our outliner, and there's all of our planets. And since they all have this mesh prefix, if someone wants to go ahead and pull open our scene here, they can see that it's made up of just mainly a bunch of geometry. And they should be pretty content with that at the moment. Okay, so I know that if you are looking at this, you might want to try organizing, since there's a bunch of moons that can be somewhat organized a little better than it currently is, but we're going to get there in the next lesson. For now, this is going to be a good stopping point for us. I'm going to go ahead and close up the outliner. I'm going to go ahead and save my scene. So I'll go to File, Save Scene. Okay, and this is where we're going to stop for today. In the next lesson, we're going to go ahead and pick up with the introduction of the hypershade and how that is used inside of Maya, and we're going to use that to texture all of our solar system planets. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next lesson.